everybody. Welcome to the Ozark Radio Hour, brought to you by the Eureka Springs Independent and the Inside Straight and Thanatopsis Club. I'm Richard Pille.
And I'm Kent Crow, and we're your hosts for about an hour of purely organic radio, always fresh, always local, and always honest.
And I'm Jeremiah Alvarado. My role on the ORH is to link the program to the 21st century and help Richard and Kent relate human beings who were born after the first Roosevelt administration.
Kent, what do you think this kid's trying to tell us something?
I can't imagine what it would be, but let's not forget that I'm a lawyer, and lawyers don't deal in imaginary concepts, so let's let the defendant speak for himself, shall we?
I'm a defendant now?
Get used to it, kid.
Well, Jeremiah, what do you mean when you say that you're here to help myself and can't relate to human beings who were born before the first Roosevelt administration?
I don't know. It's what Dan Croats wanted me to say. You guys are being oversensitive.
Basically, you're a good person, and from what I've seen, you probably hold doors open for old people and say thank you when you check out of the grocery store.
Being oversensitive, perhaps, but try this one on for size. Gary Breen from Minneapolis, Minnesota, he actually listened and wrote in. I guess in reference to your defense of video games, it's good to know that Mr. Alvarado thinks there's an anti-war movement going on these days. I guess I've missed it. By the way, does Jeremiah have a man bun? Seems like all the video gamers I know have one.
Why, yes, I do. I have the greatest man bun in the world, and there is no man bun that can compare to my man bun.
Oh, my God.
Thank you for the Scorpio BS.
Yeah.
I love the passive aggressiveness. But, yes, is it probably better to say more of anti-war stirrings? Might I suggest going to Infowars.com? Yes, it is mostly a conspiracy theory website, but it's there. I mean, personally, I'm anti-war.
But we don't have people in the streets. We don't have protesters that those of us of a certain age have seen in the past and perhaps experienced or, reacted to. And in Jeremiah's defense, Gary, he really doesn't have a man bun. His hair really is very short for a man his age.
Let's get back to this video gamer thing that Gary Breen was talking about, and I want to ask you a question within the context of gaming.
Oh, good.
Do you see within that an anti-war movement?
It's not in video games. Not particularly. I mean, yes, in some. Overall, no. But I mean, most of them overall are more for
those of us that haven't played, they glorify war.
I understand, yes, and many of them do, but most of them are for, to be frank, entertainment value. There are many that still do question, morality.
The great diversion. Some years ago, we were doing a project at a huge theme park where I worked, and the security people came on board and gave us a pep talk by congratulating us, what a great job we were doing and what an important part of the great diversion we were. That without these diversions, there would be civil unrest and blood in the streets. So maybe video gaming is one of those diversions.
It's just another way of keeping the populace pacified and distracted from what is really going on inside our country and the government and those corporations and individuals who run the whole show.
Have you guys ever thought about subscribing to Infowars?
I was going to say, it sounds a little bit conspiracy theorist right now.
Well, it does, doesn't it? It's so nice. I love it.
If you play these video games, you don't worry about things like that.
No.
I mean, you're unique and unusual.
I think we should be waging war on the pharmaceutical companies. But anyway, that's another topic. Let's move along, shall we?
Now, before we do,
we are.
I would like to argue with Richard. Now, since I play video games, I can't connect with my reality. I really do feel I have a great man button.
Well, and a man imaginary. You do sport every time I see you.
You see now his entire credibility comes into question because
from you.
Well, if he imagines himself to have a man bun, what can we believe about anything else he says?
Yes, and your credibility is coming into play worry here too, Ken, since you don't deal with imaginary concepts.
Exactly where I was going with that. So,
So you're saying the law is all imaginary?
You said it before we started.
Oh, shoot. Did I? Oh, society is now going to crumble.
Pay attention.
Okay.
All right.
How can we possibly control anything without the law? Okay. Well, let's move along, shall we? T.Racy Johnson was on the show last week, and I miss seeing her. You guys always have fun when I'm gone. I don't know what it is. I was wearing the judicial robes last week over in Marion and Baxter County, and couldn't be with you that morning. I did listen to the show, but
so
Richard,
how many guys did you send to the slammer last week?
No. I was adjudicating civil cases. Okay,
civil
cases.
Somehow civil and you.
Well,
those two words are very difficult to put together.
You're confusing the criminal law and civil law.
Oh.
And one of my old criminal law professors once said that criminal law was the only thing that was important in the legal world, because civil law just involved one dumb son of a bitch taking money from another.
Oh, instead of in criminal law, the lawyers taking money from everybody.
No, we're protecting truth, justice, and the American way and defending your constitutional rights.
What a great thing.
Just wait till you need the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you then.
Right.
Okay.
Well, how about we talk to our audience? So, how's it going with the Berryville Community Restoration Project?
Well, you know what? We are doing pretty good. We have been running a program called Pennies on the Square for the last 2 months. In fact, I just looked at our receipts this morning as Dan was walking into the studio, and I'm sure he thought I was counting my own money. I was not. That was the money that has been contributed to the project. We in the first 2 months collected almost $1,700. I'm hoping to collect $2,000 in the month of September, with a goal of collecting $8,000 by the end of the year, so that we can do our next project, which is as yet undefined because we don't know how much money we have to do it yet.
Well, I have to say that of all of the collections and things going, you guys have really done a great job. I hate saying that to you personally, but the town is cleaner looking. Mm-hmm. The art that is on the buildings, the restoration of some of the historic signs, you're going to have to get an attaboy on all of that. It's pretty cool.
Thank you. And the mayor has promised repeatedly that they are going to reconstruct all of the sidewalks on the Berryville Square, and they're got a project to remodel the park areas in the center of the square. I was hoping that would all be underway before now, but we are anticipating that the city will hold good to its promises and help us clean the place up.
Well, I think it's great, and I also hope that transfers over to bigger conversation of improving the economy in the entire county through fiber optic communications and other ways to improve the other ways. We're just putting lipstick on a pig.
Well, I don't want to disagree with you. The things that we're doing, I think, go beyond that, because if you're familiar with programs such as Main Street USA, one of the principal concepts of community restoration is to improve appearance of the buildings and the communities, because that, in fact, elicits a response from people in terms of whether or not it's the kind of area that they want to engage in, if they want to have businesses in the locations, that sort of thing. And so, putting lipstick on the pig, well, if you don't get some lipstick on this pig, there ain't going to be no bacon.
And I agree. The whole program making the community look a lot better, and it's really comfortable and fun to walk down the square.
Well, great. And I've got a paintbrush that will fit your hand.
Ah, that sounds like work. In other news, we want folks to get out and register to vote. If you intend to vote in the election this year, you've got to be registered, and you've got to register 30 days prior to the election day, and that means the deadline is October 7th. And
in order to vote, you've got to be a citizen of the United States, a resident of Arkansas, who's been living in Arkansas for at least 30 days before the next election, at least 18 years old by the date of the next election. And even if you meet those requirements, you can't register to vote if you're a convicted felon still serving your sentence, or judgmentally incompetent by a court with jurisdiction in Arkansas.
No, wait a minute. That last one. Are you sure you two can vote?
Yes, I can vote. And let me say that it is a very good thing that neither of you are running for office this year.
If you intend to vote, you'll have to show a valid form of photo identification when you vote. Actually, I don't think they can make you do that. But that is an iffy question. That's a gray area. But they're going to ask you for something. So when you do go to vote, you should take a driver's license, a passport, some sort of identification, whether it's a college ID or a military ID, a state or federal employee badge, a concealed carry permit, and a free voter ID card is available from your county clerk. So you can go over when you register, and they'll make sure that when the day comes, you won't be hassled by a clerk who thinks all those rules apply.
There was a lot of as in there, Kent. What do you mean?
You fuzzed everything up in the beginning by saying, well, I don't think they can make you do that.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, who's they? And why don't you have to show an ID? Because you have to show an ID to cash a check.
I don't.
Lock him back in the box. Richard, I keep telling you to lock Dan in that box of his.
I guess you look suspicious. I walk in and they say, Judge Crow, sure, here.
Well,
okay.
I often travel somewhere besides my own community.
Really?
I know that you have trouble doing that at your age, but some of us actually travel around.
Well, I know about the circles you travel in.
Yeah, well.
So, all right. Well, anyway, the voter registration laws have been challenged throughout the country, although the clerks who will be logging you in to vote, or the people at the registration tables will be checking you to see whether or not you're on the rolls, may ask you for identification. I think under current court decisions, you can actually refuse to do that, and if you're on the rolls, they have to let you vote. Now, it may become a provisional vote, and it may be subject to being challenged, but I think you still have the right to refuse submitting an identification.
So your vote will be challenged outright rather than just thrown away if it's for the wrong party.
It may go into another pile and subsequently evaluated at the end of the vote tally. But anyway, we'll have to see how that comes along.
With all the gerrymandering and district changing, does your vote really count anymore? Do you actually think our votes count?
Well, hypothetically, let's say no one voted. What would happen?
That's a great thing to think about.
Well, no one would be elected, right?
This may be an improvement.
Yeah, well, those darn candidates are going to go and vote for themselves. That could skew. They will vote. That could skew the whole process.
Are they allowed to vote for themselves? I actually did not know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did not.
Well, of course you are.
Okay, I was just curious. I didn't know that.
Well, sure. I mean, if you can't vote for yourself, who can you vote for? For heaven's sakes.
Seems a little...
You got that vote when you ran for it.
I got one.
Yeah.
The other guy got all the rest.
Moving right along, we've got Sharon Laborde, and welcome to the conversation. Sharon gives us a Crystal Bridges update along with a review of the latest exhibition there, which is American Folk Art. Have either of you guys seen the show?
I have not. I have not been over to Crystal Bridges since probably last fall.
Well, it's a great resource for us. I wish I'd get over there more often. You can spend days there. We're very fortunate to have that great facility and all that world-class art.
I just happen to know that Dan Croats was just at Crystal Bridges.
Indeed.
And he is, in fact, in the studio with us today.
Well, let's drag him out of the back and dust him off and see what he's got to say.
Dan, what did you see at Crystal Bridges?
Well, I didn't see the three of you, which is too bad, and which is probably accounts for the fact that why you're all so ignorant and out of touch with what's going on.
You didn't invite us to go with you either.
I should have done that. It's a pretty good show. What I liked about it was the handmade artifacts, guys in carved wood, some handmade furniture, that kind of thing, which is what I think of as folk art.
Yes.
What I was less impressed with was, the paintings, the pictures, and that sort of thing. The exhibit was early American folk art, focused on New England producers, and so we didn't miss a lot of the newer folk art. If you go south, for example, you're going to run into little art galleries in small southern towns, and there'll be pictures of Jesus and Elvis ascending into heaven together. Now, that's the kind of folk art I like.
Well, you're just sort of a kindred spirit, aren't you?
Well, and I have painted some folk art pictures of myself. I painted a picture of our state representative, Bob Ballinger, running out of the Nat House with his pants around his ankles, shooting a pistol in the air. Wouldn't you like to buy that picture?
I just might,
I think it'd be a great campaign poster for him.
So I do work professionally as Skidmore C. Shankberry, and I'm hanging in galleries throughout the Mid-South.
Well, Skid, I want to say that...
Okay, I'm leaving the studio now, so thank you for asking.
And don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Goodbye.
Okay. You got anything to say about that?
No, I'm
okay, all right. Well, anyway, Dan did other things as well, and he interviews sculptor and artist Stephen Feilbach, who is out of Eureka Springs and is developing an international reputation. Stephen is an interesting guy who has I guess, an impish sense of humor. And T.Racy Johnson is going to give us a heads up about what's happening on the music scene during September on Music is Medicine for the Soul. And then she plays a little Chucky Waggs for us. And Jeremiah, you're doing Third Side of the Coin. So why don't you introduce that for us?
Okay. This week, just interviewing Mary Pat Boian, editor at the Eureka Springs Independent, to talk shortly about her an old article she used to write known as I Saw Arkansas.
Do you think he was sucking up to his boss?
No, I think he's trying to help make a transition to a better program, something that you and I have been wanting to have happen for a very long time. And
I know, but we haven't been able to get you to quit.
I can't get you off the air.
Believe me, Kent, it was much to her dismay that I convinced her to do it.
I'm so happy that Eureka Springs Independent is truly becoming a more integral part of this program. So let's listen to Jeremiah's interview with Mary Pat Boian. Here's the third side of the coin.
Hey everybody, Jeremiah Alvarado here, bringing you the third side of the coin, and this week I'm doing something a little bit different. I'll be reading from a series of old articles, or at least the first one ever published, known as I Saw Arkansas. Now some of you may remember this from the first edition of the Lovely County Citizen. It was written by Mary Pat Boian, and I'll be reading from it today and asking Mary Pat just a few questions about its 5-year running. Don't do it, advised our banker. There are faster and easier ways to make money. Newspapers here are notorious for going broke, embarrassing themselves, getting sued, and then chased out of town, said the man who employed me as a cook all summer. Go for it, said my dad, a retired newspaper man. Forget it, said my oldest and dearest friend. Lofty, said an advertiser. Show me, said a competing publisher. So, here we go. William Lewis Lovely negotiated a land agreement in 1818 to create a buffer zone where the Cherokee could hunt without having to get into fistfights with the Osage. In 1827, this purchase was expanded into Lovely County. Then, in 1828, Washington County officials were instructed to take over the affairs and moneys of Lovely County. Short-lived but dynamic was Lovely County, which was advertised in the East as a place, quote, admirably situated, abundant with wildlife and game of every description. In October 1999, two very different people, a man and a woman, who had known each other for 20 years but had never had coffee together, looked up the word naive in the dictionary. Next to the word, they found their pictures. Let's start a newspaper, and let's name it after a man who encouraged accurate information, fair assessments, and vigorous participation in the community. A man who related decrees from the government to the people in the I was here before you mentality. A man who was so cool he married a woman all the tribes liked. A man named Lovely, we decided. This is it. This is the start of the beginning of the commencement of the newspaper Bill King and I envisioned to answer what we perceived as the need for research news, strong opinions, variety, tenderness, and community participation. Our goal at the Lovely County Citizen. Now, this first article of the I Saw Arkansas was published on December 8th of 1999. I'm now joined by Mary Pat Boian, the writer of this and now editor at the Eureka Springs Independent. Mary Pat, how are you today?
Oh, I am just dandy, Jeremiah. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I can hear the sarcasm in your voice right now, Mary Pat.
Oh, but you saw my eyes.
Oh,
it was
yes.
genuine.
Oh, very genuine. Okay, well, just a few questions for you. So the I Saws lasted from, I believe, the first article of the first paper from the Lovely County Citizen up until about 2005.
January of 2005, that's right.
Okay, so I'm just curious, how did you come up with the I Saw Arkansas?
I had always written journals, big chief tablets, and would just write. And I didn't do anything with it except save it sometimes. And E. Ray Smith and I were living in Butler Hollow in the old stone house. And I was going to work one morning at the Beaver Dam store. And we opened at 5:30 in the morning. And as I was driving down the dirt road, there was a Cadillac DeVille. And it was off the road, high-centered, hanging its trunk over the ledge going toward the creek. The windows were all up. This man started rising up out of the driver's seat. I mean, just rising up real slowly. And he had a fedora hat on. And he looked at me with, I don't know, terrified eyes maybe. And I was terrified. We didn't know if we could get him out or if the car was going to fall, if the weight changed or something like that. But anyway, he did get out, and he had Nevada license plates on this car. So my neighbor Steve Mesha lived about a half mile away and got him and got his truck and got a chain and hauled the car back up to the road. The man said, "Well, where am I?" And I said, "Well, if you go that way, you're in Arkansas, and if you go that way, you're in Missouri." And he said, "Well, point me toward Missouri, because I saw Arkansas." And I thought, oh, gosh, that's one word. That's rhythm. That's a sign. So everything I wrote, and I typed it on the typewriter my parents gave me for high school graduation. I just kept typing and typed 500, 600, 700 pages of just little stories that happened in our lives. And then one day I went out back and I was burning trash and I just threw it all in there. And really it was only because I was trying to clean things up in my office. And I wish I hadn't done that, but I did. But I still thought of that man. And then I was working at Bubba's as a cook in 1981, I guess. And the Miller distributing, the man who drove the Miller beer truck came in to deliver the beer. And I said, "What if I wanted to make T-shirts that just said I Saw Arkansas on them? What would I have to do to get you to print them?" And he said, "Put the Miller logo on the sleeve." I thought, well, that's good. We could sell those. Neither one of us ever did anything about it. But it's still, I Saw Arkansas as one word, I just think as music.
So throughout the entire time of I Saw Arkansas, there's probably, I don't know, a couple hundred stories in all of those. How did you come up with those?
Conversations with people. Just sitting around under the hackberry tree, talking to friends and drinking beer and listening to funny things. People really wrote it themselves. I just put it on the paper. The insights of people, the wisdom, the humor, it just all comes out when you're relaxed.
Yeah.
It's not like making someone sit by a microphone and tell them to relax. Because you're just automatically relaxed when you're under the hackberry.
I think that's a dig at me.
Well, no.
Were you expecting it to be such a long-standing article in there?
We had to fill the space. It had to be. Just had to do it every week because that's the way our paper was formatted. And, if we weren't going to sell ads, we were going to have to try and talk people into reading whatever we wrote. I enjoyed writing them. It was not a struggle.
Yeah.
Editorials are a struggle for me because I just really don't care about taking a strong stance on something because I know there is an opposing view that's also well thought out and fair, and an editorial kind of, you're supposed to take a stand of, how you feel about something, and it's really hard for me to feel strongly about just about anything. I would rather observe and listen to what people say. Do something with that, because that's who they really are. I mean, parking meters. How many? There's two sides to that, and they both make sense.
Yeah.
Closing Spring Street. What kind of act should be in the auditorium? How do people get away with violating HDC rules?
Yeah.
There are lots of things we can complain about, and then the other side of that coin is, we are in paradise. And really, if every person in Eureka Springs were gone tomorrow, Eureka Springs would be just as beautiful. Or maybe even more. I mean, the man-made stuff here, the rock walls primarily, are beautiful. But other than that, what have we done except exploit a beautiful piece of real estate? And exploit's the wrong word, because everybody who's in business has got to make business and say, this is just great and you need to buy my stuff. And we are good at what we do for the most part, because we have been going with ups and downs in 13-year cycles, as June Westfall told me once, and we're on an upswing cycle right now. I don't know. It's just I saw Arkansas was an easier way to express myself than an editorial is. It's just I would rather write that. I don't know if I will, but.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, are you planning on doing future ISAWARKANSAS?
Well, I don't know. I still, when I go home at night, I sit in my chair and still write these things. And it might only be one sentence that I can wrap an editorial around and go, well, maybe this isn't a strong viewpoint, but maybe somebody will be amused or have some relief, just something that is not too long. It's 700 words long, and you can usually, if you are a reader, you can get that many words down.
Thank you, Mary Pat, for joining me to talk about the ISAWARKANSAS.
You're welcome. It's all about me.
It was.
Oh, wow.
All right. Well, this has been Jeremiah Alvarado bringing you the third side of the coin, and I wish all of you a wonderful week.
Well, Jeremiah, that was a good piece. We always enjoy hearing from Mary Pat. And what do you think about the potential or possibilities of her reviving that column and giving us more insights into how she sees Arkansas?
Well, it's kind of why I interviewed her. Perlinda and I have been really trying to push her to start writing them again. I found them on her old computer, and I read about a year's worth, and they are pretty good stories and really just show off kind of who our community is. Mm-hmm. And I really want her to, and it's kind of the secondary motive of interviewing her, is I'm trying to convince her to start writing them again. Because she enjoys that a lot more, and that's what she said, than writing editorials and that kind of thing.
Mary Pat, I think, brings an interesting perspective to Arkansas, and I think that sometimes it takes someone who is not from Arkansas to really put a spotlight on what we are, what it is to be in Arkansas, what it's like here. Those who have perhaps spent their lives here, have a tendency to take it for granted, just as we take almost any place that we live for a long period of time for granted. And we stop seeing, I think, the uniqueness of a particular area around us, or its strengths or its weaknesses. And so I think it's always interesting to have someone write pieces about our community and our culture who brings a different perspective to it. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about our producer, Dan, who is from the far, far northland. And he comes down here, and he has...
always said he was a Yankee.
And he brings to us this curmudgeonly viewpoint, and it's an absolute contradiction to the love of this area that his wife holds. And I tremble for their relationship.
Well, you guys, that your roots grow down through the karst environment, and you've been here so long that, the mold is growing around the root up where it's exposed to the air. And finally, it gets your bigoted sense of place is being shaken a little bit, and I find it very encouraging that you're attracted to that. It's wonderful.
Attracted to the dichotomy of Dan and his wife Susan,
and other people showing you that this is actually a better place to live than you think.
Well, let me just tell you this: those of us who have our roots here that go back generations see those of you who come through the area as nothing more than transient leaves that will fall from the tree and blow away in the wind.
Yeah, well, mixed with what you come up with, it'd make great fodder, and compost would be a kind word.
Okay. All right. And up next is Sharon Laborde, and welcome to the conversation.
Welcome to the conversation. This is Sharon Laborde. I must confess, I feel like I've been neglecting an old friend. It's been almost a year since I gushed on and on about the Frank Loyd Wright House, Thomas Eakins, and Ramos Martinez at Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in Bentonville. There's so much to talk about in Northwest Arkansas that it's all too easy to miss out on fascinating events. But I hope it's not too late to plan a trip to the museum in the next week or so. I would hate for you to miss out on the wonderful exhibit, American Made, closing September 12th. This special exhibition is from the American Folk Art Museum and contains 115 objects, quilts, carvings, signs, samplers, weather vanes, whirligigs, and more, all handmade in America. Since there is a limited amount of time left before the exhibit closes, it might be a good idea to call ahead for a ticket. While you're at it, you can request a ticket for free admission to the Frank Loyd Wright House and combine the experience of American folk art and a view of early to mid-century modern architecture created by the flamboyant bad boy of architecture. And if you miss this event, there are more exciting things on the horizon. Beginning in October, the 22nd to be exact, and running through January 16th, 2017, a new exhibit, The Art of American Dance, will be on display. This is the first major traveling exhibition to explore the visual arts related solely to the various forms of dance. The 90 works in the show range from abstract to realistic and are the works of major American artists, John Singer Sargent, Mary Cassatt, Robert Henri, William Merritt Chase, and many others. The exhibit features paintings, prints, sculptures, and photographs from the 1830s to the present day, everything from Native American cultures to all forms of popular American dance, the jitterbug, ballroom dancing, swing, modern dance, and more. Obviously, the artists were inspired by the diversity of American dance, and the impressive description on the museum website sounds like something I'll be sure to put on my calendar. And while I'm on the subject of the Crystal Bridges website, I recently saw an interesting list posted. I suppose for those who want to make a quick tour, here are the 8 must-see works in the permanent collection, so don't miss them on your next visit. At the top of the list is the Gilbert Stuart portrait of George Washington, painted in 1797, oil on canvas. No, there's no surprise there, but I simply can't believe it. This portrait is in Northwest Arkansas, folks. There's no excuse not to see one of the most famous paintings in American history and art. Okay, I'll quit preaching. Next is one of my all-time favorite paintings, Asher Brown Duran's Kindred Spirits, 1849, oil on canvas. Next, Thomas Eakins' Professor Benjamin Howard Rand, 1874, oil on canvas. Oh, and one of the few women Impressionist painters, Mary Cassatt's beautiful painting, The Reader, 1877, oil on canvas, is also in the top 8. Then who could pass up Norman Rockwell's Rosie the Riveter, 1943, oil on canvas? Talk about iconic. Along with Andy Warhol's portrait of Dolly Parton, 1985, synthetic polymer and screen print on canvas, and Mark Rothko's number 210, number 211, orange, 1960, oil on canvas. And last but not least on the list is Evan Penny's old self-portrait of the artist as he will not be. Silicone, pigment, hair, fabric, and aluminum. I'll miss paying a visit with my students from Southwest High School in Washburn, Missouri this fall, but I'm at a new school. Some of you may have heard that I'm teaching full-time again this year. What was I thinking? Truthfully, I asked myself that this afternoon when I got home and felt slightly overwhelmed. Then I remembered I felt this way during the first few weeks of school when I was in my 20s. Teenagers sap your strength. But seriously, take your kids to the museum. They may act cool and unimpressed, but they'll learn a lot, and I'll bet you'll enjoy it too. I'm so glad you could join me on Welcome to the Conversation. I'll be back next week with a few more ideas about writing, interviews with fascinating people, reports on the history of the unique place we call home, and the creative spirit that is alive and well here in the beautiful Ozark Mountains of Northwest Arkansas and Missouri. Until next time, this is Sharon Laborde, Cultural Editor of Ozark Radio Hour. And now, please stay tuned for the following brief message.
Are you an independent author looking for a publisher? Cahaba Press is open to a limited number of submissions. Check out our Guidelines and Writers Service package on our website for print and ebooks. Cahaba Press offers editing, formatting, and cover design at a reasonable rate. Your book will be digitized for upload to Amazon, and you will retain all rights to your intellectual property. That means you keep all your royalties. Your book will also be listed on our website, cahabapress.com. That's CAHABAPRESS.com, with a link to Amazon and their worldwide marketing platform. We take care of our writers. Email publisher@Cahaba Press for more details. We look forward to serving you.
Sharon has a way with words, doesn't she? I guess I'd never thought of Frank Loyd Wright as the flamboyant bad boy of architecture, but it makes me want to spank him anyway. Thank you, Sharon. Up next is an interview with sculptor Stephen Feilbach.
I'm at the Art Colony in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, with the artist Stephen R Feilbach. Stephen, welcome to Ozark Radio.
Thank you very much.
I was so glad to meet you this morning. I've followed you on Facebook and have really enjoyed the pictures of the art that you've done, and it's really terrific to see it up close and personal.
Well, I appreciate that.
As I see, you're mostly working in, I think you said, rock, copper, and wood. Is that right?
Yes and no. For the most part, yes, but I mess with so many different materials that it just whatever might look like it might fit together. So you'll use another material and paint, plaster. I mean, it's endless. Today, it's where we live in time, you've got all these options to materials, so I try to utilize them.
Well, you and I have something in common. I mean, you're an artist and I am not. Well, what we have in common is that both of us will take pretty much found materials and turn them into something useful and beautiful. Is that an accurate description?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I love, I was had a farm for a lot of years, and so I always loved going around in the creeks and road ditches, and where people see firewood and junk, I see something else. And so I've always drug in things that most people be just laughing at me for doing, but It's who I am, right?
Let me know how you happened to find yourself in Eureka Springs. What brought you here?
I want to say about 3 years ago or something. I was in Branson and run across some people that lived here, and we got talking art because that's all I talk about. I think that's all I know. So they said, you ought to go to Eureka. And so I come down here for just a day trip, and I run into the guys, I believe Adam and another Sage plays music here in town, and then guys that own the art colony. And then when I, probably a year ago, started on my road trip around, I just started traveling around the country, just chainsawing and garden gnomes, and just started, I reached a point in my life to where I got to do art. Everything else can fall apart. Life is what it is. I got to go make art, and you got to make money at it to exist and travel. And so I found myself roaming around, and Eureka was on the next stop. And so the next stop turned into 6 months. The place, the energy of the place is just so unique and so attracting. And, the joke is, what if you're not ready for Eureka, it'll spit you out. Well, it just sucked me in. I mean, I started getting a lot of projects locally and started doing, the faces, and it just kept rolling, and I still got stuff from it. And the furniture and everything else I build just because I have the pieces. I chase probably the custom work more than anything because I really enjoy putting my mark all over the place. So
you had designed a garden gnome that was looks like it was about 8 feet tall in celebration of the Kansas City Royals. I love seeing that.
Yeah.
And I know you are known for making garden gnomes and so on, but you do so much more than that.
Yeah, I think that's where so many people. They're a lot of fun because they're goofy and they're fun things to do. But they were something I just started into probably a year and a half ago. I started doing them, and then people were like, ha ha ha, and it just was a lot of fun. And the other stuff has always been really true and dear to me. The abstract sculpture and furniture and rock carvings. I mean, if I could do nothing but carve rock, I'd probably be all right.
One of the things that you showed me this morning before we began the interview was a human hand, carved out of walnut. How did that come to your mind?
Over the years, I've always done a lot of studies on the human anatomy and body and doing sculptures like I've done just an ear, just an eye, I did a lot of that in rock. And then the faces, I do a lot in wood. And so I want to start doing just the hands are just so cool. There's so many shapes. They hold everything. If you think about it, they are everything. So I want to start taking this into more, I guess, of a series, if you will, where hands are holding a glass tabletop and hands are holding you when you sit down, or just bigger stuff, but still just hands and eyes, for some reason, have a real draw to people.
I see a lot of that in your work, and it's really, really wonderful. What I liked especially about the walnut hand is that you were able to capture the kind of the center of the wood, the heart of the wood, right in the middle of the palm of the piece, and that really was so welcoming and kind of spiritual in many respects.
The one thing I find about doing art is there's a lot of things you don't recognize. You just see it and you do it. And I always am amazed at people. I've always been amazed with people who write in words and do that because, like I was saying, I'm extremely dyslexic. So I'm very visual and touchy. And I've always had a very strong mind's eye. And so never knowing what a lot of that was until probably in recent years and understanding stuff, I just see things and I go do it. Or other people, then when the people describe it like what you just did, I mean, I'm just like, wow, that sounded cool. I didn't even think that deep about that piece when I was doing it. I was just like, cool.
One of the things I find is for myself, when I am making a piece of furniture, I'll get an old piece of pine or walnut or oak, and I'll look at it, and it seems to me that the wood tells me what it wants to be. I call that the volition of wood, or the will of wood. Do you find that too when you get a piece of material and it's sort of, you have to wait and let it speak to you?
Oh, tremendously. I'm that person that stops on the side of the road because he saw something and picks it up. I'm the one that's going through and finding pieces, and I don't know what they're for. Always. I mean, I have always just drug stuff in and piled things up, and then every once in a while I'll get in a mood and I'll start cleaning, and it's just like, oh, that's that, that's this. Oh my gosh, why this stuff's been just sitting there and I didn't know all this stuff was in it. So yeah, I constantly drag pieces because I can't always see stuff in it. It's like time something, I don't know what that amounts to, but like all of a sudden you go like, dang, that's what it is right there. And it's easy, and it's just whatever tool and get it done. But prior to that, it probably looks like what everybody else thinks it looks like.
All right. Do you have a favorite medium to work in?
I really enjoy rock, but it does not lend itself to as easy access to move, to deal with. No, I just, because I play with so many. It depends on my mood, I think, sometimes. Wood is probably right at the moment at the top of it because it's so malleable, so manipulative, and then when I chainsaw stuff in it, then you can start carving stuff in it, and it just can become you take a piece of firewood, ultimately. I mean, these bears right here, they were firewood. So now they're bears. And so I've always enjoyed taking something that somebody was going to throw away and getting money off of it. and so I'm the ultimate person that I do not like waste. And if you don't understand that, I will pack your firewood off that you don't want because I'm going to carve things into it and then I'll sell it. For me, it's all about stuff. But I don't want to keep it after I'm done with it. I've got that energy out, and it's like, well, that's cool. Get rid of it. I don't want it now, And so that's where it comes into perfect Christmas gifts, right?
Well, that's exactly right. Stephen, who is your ideal customer? Who likes your stuff?
Boy, it has been everybody. As far as, and I don't mean that like everybody likes it, because you're always going to find critics, but I mean like people who buy my stuff is just all walks of life. I mean, it really is. And that's the thing that's so cool about art, and that's just even with your description you just said a second ago about one of my pieces. When somebody sees something I do and then gives me a description for that, it's just like, wow. I mean, that was meant, you needed that, or you want that, or you have such a draw to it. And so that is probably my ideal customer, people who are drawn to my stuff.
Well, right now I'm looking across the room at a piece that is actually, I think, sitting upside down.
Yeah.
But it is a wonderful piece of found wood that you have painted black and...
Not painted.
It's not painted.
No.
Wow. But what I'm seeing is a wonderful sculpture of a raven. Am I on track?
Yeah. And I never did really carve anything. That's actually just a driftwood piece, and it looks like birds flying.
It does.
And so in time, I'm just, I do it like that because it's cool, it's abstract, it was naturally like that. But in time, you never know, and I get a wild hair, and I'll just go ahead and carve it away. And not a lot, because I like that just taken away just enough on certain pieces. For you, that's what abstract does. Abstract allows you to make up your own interpretation, and it allows you to add and subtract to a piece on what you see. And so instead of making what I see, because I find a lot of times my style is a little out there and funky, and I almost have to kind of come back sometimes because I'm too far out there.
Well, you have a really wonderful mix, though, of things that are homely and traditional, and that you can, like your garden gnomes, that you can stick in the garden, and then you know exactly what it is, and then branching out, arcing out into things that are very abstract and very kind of in your face.
That would be my personality. Our personality, when it comes to art, I find our personalities come out.
Well, it's just wonderful that you've got stuff that would appeal to a whole broad range of art lovers. I mean, I'm seeing the paintings that you've done, and just really, really, really very cool. It's fun to see them.
Painting is something I probably just recently got into. I mean, as far as on canvas types of stuff. My background, I guess, lends itself to the reason I do art my whole life. So, being born dyslexic, if people don't understand that, basically I'm very visual. Words, I struggled all through school if it wasn't for a lot of help. And so then introduced to art by an uncle of mine who was then murdered when I was really early. Oh my. And because of being dyslexic, school sucked. It just did. And so I drew all the time. I was probably wasn't literally physically sick, but I was emotionally sick and all these types of things, having to deal with stuff that I didn't get. So I just drew all the time. And then, some time went by and I didn't do a lot of art. And then I started getting into sculpture and I started getting into stuff again. And it's who I am. That and animals, agriculture. I mean, it's something that, in certain places people despise big ag. There's a lot about big ag I don't like, but I was part of it for a decade. Uh-huh. And agriculture and animals is something I have a connection to also. It's just, I've raised them ever since I was as big as you can be. Not just dogs. I mean, literally wolves to everything you could imagine I've had over the years. And,
well, your art is certainly organic.
Yeah, just let it flow. So much of it is let it be what it is, and that's kind of my concept in life. I don't try picking sides with a lot of stuff. I see both sides, and so it's like if that's whatever, then okay, go. So I let a lot of my pieces do that too. Just let them flow.
Uh-huh. Well, Stephen, where can people find you and your art?
Best thing to do is probably contact me either on Facebook or check out my website, and that's StephenRFeilbach.com or the Facebook page. But my stuff is down here at the Art Colony.
Okay, StephenRFeilbach.com is your website. Mm-hmm. Why don't you spell your name for our listeners?
I'll just go to the whole thing. It's StephenR. Feilbach is Feilbach.
Okay. .com.
Yeah.
Great.
There you go. Got to have that, right? Actually, you don't with all the search engines now. But.
And they can find you on Facebook too, right?
Yeah, okay. I've got it. That's probably what I do more than anything is on Facebook. I mean, you can come down here and look at the stuff that I got sitting around, but I may not be here because I'm always out. Uh-huh. You have to chase whatever you want in life.
And your studio is on the corner of Main and Millhouse Road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. North of town, I guess.
All right. Stephen R. Feilbach, thank you so much for being with us today on Ozark Radio.
Thank you.
Sculptor Stephen Feilbach's works can be seen at his studio on South Main every day. And now it's our pleasure to turn the show over to T.Racy Johnson, and music is medicine for the soul.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again here at Ozark Radio Hour. This is T.Racy, and it's the beginning of the month, which means it's time for me to share with you all some of the music and events happening in and around Eureka Springs. It's all kicking off today, starting this morning. If you're downtown, you've noticed it's quite busy. We have a reenactment of the 1922 bank robbery. The entire town gets into it. They dress the part. It's quite a sight to see. And if you're sticking around for that, you may as well just hang out, because immediately after the bank robbery reenactment is going to be a classic and vintage car parade. It's coming right down the same route. After that, just keep on going. Follow that car parade half a block down the street, where you're going to end up at Basin Park, where Jazz Festival is happening, and there's free music offered in the park all day today. Starts off at noon with the Matt Gus Jazz Duo, followed by Claudia Burson Trio, then Kayleigh Soul, and Justin Young is going to be finishing up the music in the park. I know that's a long, eventful morning for you, so after that, you may want to take a break, get some lunch at Local Flavor or somewhere else in Eureka Springs. We have amazing food and incredible restaurants here. Maybe a little nap, because later that night, you're going to want to come back out to Chelsea's, where the Crescent City Combo is playing. This band is awesome, high-energy jazz band, lots of horns. Just so happens somebody I know has a birthday on this day. I have so many Virgo friends in town. It's incredible, and we're all going to be out celebrating birthdays on this night. So please come out and say hello to us. The following week, we have Brother Bagman happening. And then on the 17th, we have one of our favorites here at Ozark Radio Hour. Chucky Waggs is playing, and he is going to be headed up the evening by Jenny and the Johnsons. The following weekend, on the 22nd, we have Bramhall Brothers. On the 23rd at Chelsea's, a band called Irie Lion is playing. I'm going to be adventurous, take a wild guess, and say that Irie Lion is a reggae band. After that, on Saturday, the 24th, we have something that I've been anticipating for a little while. Rosenbridge is coming back to Eureka Springs. They're doing an afternoon show on the patio at Chelsea's. It's from 2 to 5. This is going to be a free show, and people of all ages are able to come into Chelsea's until 8 o'clock. Keep in mind, it is still a bar, so there will be people drinking. There will be people smoking on the patio, so use your discretion as to who you want to bring. However, for all of you folks who say that music happens a little too late for you to come out and enjoy it, this is a perfect opportunity for you to be part of the community and experience one of the most incredible bands I have ever seen live in my life, and I have seen literally thousands. So please come out. This day is going to be mind-blowing on the patio at Chelsea's. After that, later that night, we have a band called Cadillac Jackson playing. They're playing at the same venue. They're a little bit different than the music we hear here. They're rock and roll music. Come on out and give them a listen. Then the following weekend, we're going to be closing out the month with Dr. Nola and the Soul Shakers. On October 1st, we have a gal coming back to town. She's a hometown local. Most folks know her as Mary Fly, but everyone else knows her as Opal Fly, and she and the Kapows will be playing on October 1st. So please come on out and see us. Go on up to Brews. Brews is located catty corner from the post office in Eureka Springs. They have shows that start at 7 o'clock on Friday and Saturday. The coffee's incredible there. The company is you just can't beat walking around Eureka Springs. You will meet the most eclectic, kindest group of people that you'll meet in your life. So come on down here, meet us all. We love to have you. I'm gonna let you all finish this show by listening to a song I love the most by Chucky Waggs. I don't know why I love this song the most. All of his songs are great, but this one I want to share with you again. It's called Demons. It's by Chucky Waggs. Don't forget, he's playing on the 17th. So come on down to Eureka Springs this weekend. Until next time, happy trails and safe travels. Please don't forget, music is medicine for our souls.
I know demons, it's not as scary as you'd think. They just kinda hang around, think bad thoughts put me down, then buy me another drink. And I can see them with every bad choice that unfolds. Oh yeah, I can hear them laugh with every regret that I have and every lie I've ever told. Purse on my shoulder, whispering in my ear. When I look over, it seems like they disappear. But I know them in my very own hell. Oh Lord, I know demons, I know them all too well. Well, I know demons, I'm not as crazy as they say. Just cause you haven't seen them yet, will I be willing to bet that they're never far away? Tucked days in the shadows, when you think you're in the clear, but those memories remain every time they play their games. Well, that's when you know they're here. Push on my shoulder, whispering in my ear. When I look over, it seems like they disappear. And I know them in my very own hell. Oh Lord, yeah, I know demons. I know them all too well. I know demons, it's not as scary as you'd think. They just kinda hang around, think bad thoughts, put me down, and buy me another drink.
Well, thanks, Tracy. And before we say goodbye, we should share some thoughts about Labor Day. Do you have any thoughts about Labor Day, Richard?
I think this thing's been misnamed. People don't do a thing. I couldn't get a crew to come together for this weekend because it's a holiday.
You know, and Richard, I don't know why you're grousing. I happen to know as a fact that you are leaving the area with your wife to go enjoy the company of at least 40 other people in somewhat confined quarters for 2 or 3 days and just share the joy and the love.
Absolutely. Because of what we've done with our lives, we don't often get to leave together on vacation, so we're going to have wonderful folks coming in to watch the farm and babysit the chickens. And
Jeremiah, are you folks at the Eureka Springs Independent getting Monday off?
We're taking it off, although it will be one hell of a Tuesday.
It will be one hell of a Tuesday. Well, I hope that you and your colleagues at the Eureka Springs Independent will thank your lucky stars that you get the day off, while actual laboring people, folks who work at Walmart, work as waiters and waitresses and so on, will be still working away.
And you, Dan, I understand you also are going to be just kicking back at the house, putting your feet up on the chairs on your back deck in that beautiful setting that you have there around your house, and that your wife Susan and her relatives will be there to wait on you hand and foot.
That's exactly what's happening. I'm so delighted that we're having company this weekend.
And I, on the other hand, my wife is leaving to go to Little Rock and watch grandkids ride horses, and I'm stuck out in the country all alone for a weekend with nothing to do but count the scotch bottles.
Well, happy Labor Day to the three of you and to all of our listeners.
All right.
Indeed so.
Are we ready to hat up and ride off into the sunset now?
I think we're ready.
Okay.
Folks, thank you for tuning in to the Ozark Radio Hour. Until next week, adios.
The Ozark Harvest Radio Hour is a production of the Eureka Springs Independent and the Inside Straight and Thanatopsis Club. Richard Pille, executive producer. Dan Croats, producer and writer. Dr. Sharon Sloan, technical director. Dr. Fred Mayer, director of music. G.K. Chesterton, director of philosophy and content. Jane Pille and Bonifaci Fiacre, gardening consultants. Luca Brazzi, aquaculture consultant. Eddie Keever and the fabulous Keever sisters, advertising and sales. The Ozark Harvest Radio Hour is organic radio, always fresh, always local, and always honest. We are community radio. That means that if you would like to appear on the Ozark Harvest Radio Hour, we have to put you on. Contact us at the OzarkHarvestRadioHour.com, like us on Facebook, or look us up in the telephone book. Until next week, so long, and be nice.
1, 2, 3, 4.